Have you ever explained something perfectly, laid it all out, only to get a completely blank stare in return? Well, it turns out there's a much more powerful way to communicate and to teach than just telling people things. Today, we're diving into the art of asking. This quote from a teacher, man, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? We all fall into this trap. Doesn't matter if you're a teacher, a manager, or just chatting with a friend. We get so wrapped up in pushing information out that we forget to see if anyone is actually taking it in. So let's start by putting a name to this habit we all have. It's called the telling trap. Think about it. When you're on the receiving end of someone just talking at you, it's not just a little overwhelming, it's a completely passive experience. You're just sitting there. It's not involving, it's definitely not motivating, and honestly, there is zero guarantee that what's being said is actually landing. And this really lays it all out. The telling trap, it's a one-way street. It's all about transmission. But this other way, it's active. It's involving. The whole goal shifts from just sending the message to making sure there's real understanding, and even better, discovery at the other end. So what is this better way exactly? Well, it's a technique, and it's called eliciting. At its core, eliciting is pretty simple. It's the technique of drawing things out of people instead of trying to pour things in. You're pulling, not pushing. Instead of giving them a lecture, you're starting a conversation, and you're doing it mostly by asking questions. So why is this such a game changer? Well, psychologically, it changes everything. Because when we discover an idea for ourselves, we own it. It really sticks. Eliciting sparks that genuine thinking, and it nudges people toward that incredible aha moment. It turns passive listeners into active, motivated learners who are actually invested in what's going on. Okay, I know this might sound a little abstract, so let's make it really concrete. We're going to walk through a super simple, practical example to see how this actually works in the real world. All right, so imagine you're showing someone a picture. The telling way is to just describe it. You see a cafe, it's on a busy street. It's efficient, I guess, but it requires zero thought from the other person. They can just sit there and nod along. There's no engagement, no puzzle to solve, no discovery. So what happens if we just flip the script entirely? What if, instead of making all these statements, we just start asking a few simple questions about that exact same picture? And boom, look at the difference. By asking a series of really simple questions, the teacher is guiding the student to build the exact same story, but for themselves. Now they're an active participant. They're looking closer, they're noticing details, and they're even coming up with their own ideas about what's happening. They're not being told a story, they are discovering it. This incredibly powerful technique of guiding people with questions, it actually has a name, and it's been around for thousands of years. It's called the Socratic method. So what makes a question truly Socratic? It all comes down to the intention behind it. A Socratic question isn't a pop quiz to see what someone knows. It's a tool. It's designed to lead them to an answer, to help them connect the dots on something they might already have a hunch about. And the process itself is wonderfully straightforward. It's really just two stages. First, you ask questions to figure out what the person already knows. You find their starting point. Then, you use that as a foundation, asking new questions that help them build on it, one logical step at a time. Let's just watch this in action. A student says the past tense of blow is blowed. Now, instead of just correcting them, the teacher starts asking questions. Do we use ed for all verbs? No. So is blow regular or irregular? Irregular. Then just a little clue, the word no, and you can almost see the light bulb go on as the student connects the pattern themselves and makes that leap to blue. That moment of self-discovery, that's a million times more powerful than just being told the right answer. So this process of guiding someone to their own answer, it's not just a one-off trick. The Socratic method is really a central piece of a much bigger idea, the art of guided discovery. You can think of it as a simple, repeatable cycle. First, you focus the learner's attention. Second, you ask a strategic question to get them thinking. Third, and this is absolutely crucial, you listen carefully to what they say. And finally, you give them feedback that sets them up for the next question. But here's the really cool part. Real learning isn't just going around in a flat circle. It's a spiral. Every time you go through that cycle of focus, ask, listen, you're not just back where you started, you're taking the understanding to a whole new, deeper level, building on what you just figured out.
And this doesn't always have to be some long, drawn-out process. Sometimes the most powerful move is just a single cryptic hint. In this case, the teacher just says, past tense. That one little nudge is enough to completely reframe the topic for the student and spark a totally new idea. It's about planting a seed, not handing over a fully grown tree.
So, we've seen just how powerful this can be in a learning situation. But now, let's turn this around and bring it back to you.
And this is so important to remember. Eliciting is not just for teachers. It is an incredible skill for managers trying to empower their teams, for parents trying to build a real connection with their kids, really, for anyone who just wants to have better, more meaningful conversations in their life. But let's be honest, eliciting isn't always the fastest route. It definitely takes more time and patience than just spitting out the answer. And that leaves us with a final question to think about. When is that moment of discovery really worth the extra time? And as you start using this, are there some things that maybe are still better left simply told?